Thanks for staying with us. Now, Derek's been in Kildare this morning with the Kildare Wildlife Rescue.
Yes, he's been learning all about the rescue centre's efforts to keep local birds safe.
Take it away, Derek.
Good morning, team. It's all about rescue and rehabilitation here this morning, broadcasting live from Kildare Wildlife Rescue. Pierce Stokes is with us. And Pierce, let's get straight into that recent oil spill there in May, just off the coast, just off the Irish Sea coast.
Yeah, so at the beginning of May there was an oil spill on the east coast of Ireland. Don't know exactly where the source of it is from, but over 150 guillemots and razorbills started to come ashore all the way down the east coast, from Dublin all the way down to Carnsore Point.
Pierce, was it a large spill?
It must have been a pretty large spill, but it seems to have been maybe out to sea where these particular species breed and feed. So they were diving into that oil, diving through to fish and getting covered in that oil. So they would come in completely covered in oil when by the time we would see them.
How many birds were affected, Pierce?
So international estimates are that you see about 10% of all the birds that were affected, and we took in about 150 animals. So it could be as much as 1,500 birds that are out there that we didn't get to help, but we did manage to get help to 100 of those birds.
Now, there was a big rescue mission underway. How did you manage and how did you go about capturing them?
Yeah, so we were incredibly lucky that Kildare Wildlife Rescue has this big network of first responders. So we were able to mobilise that network right away and get people down along the east coast. If this had been on the west coast or somewhere else, it would have been a total disaster. If it had been a different species, it would have been a total disaster. But over that 400 kilometres of coastline, Dublin down to Wexford, the team mobilised. We've set up a specialised group of volunteers who were trained to deal with oil, and we went basically hitting beach after beach after beach. People were sending in reports to that email, info@kwr.ie. The email team were filtering that down to us, and we were on the road flying back and forth 16-hour days, and then we'd be bringing the birds back here, and the team all through the night would be working to stabilise those birds, get them fit and strong as fast as possible. And so that was the first response effort, if you like. And after that, then you get into having to stabilise them, feed them up so that they're not ingesting all that oil. And when they're strong enough, they pass a blood test, and that means they're suitable to go in and get washed.
Now, it was mainly razorbills and guillemots.
That's right,
They're the birds you took in.
Overwhelmingly guillemots and a few razorbills. They're incredibly charismatic birds, brilliant little seabirds. But when we were picking them up, they were skin and bone. You could feel their bones, their keel it's called, and when we were picking them up. And then, because I only do the first response, when I came up here and saw them in the tanks when they'd come back to full health and saw them, being released back out into the sea, I was in tears, to be honest with you, to see them come back full of life. You'd see them on camera.
Pierce, you had to set up a whole operation, including these tanks and pools we have here behind us.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a very expensive operation. National Parks and Wildlife Service and the Oil Wildlife Response Network helped us out there. Obviously, we have Grey Abbey vets right here on site giving us all that veterinary support. But there's this tank, about 10 grand that you can see behind us. So Ireland was not prepared for this. Like I was saying to you earlier on, this was like a drill. We got incredibly lucky with location, species. We can put 8 guillemots on this pool. If we had cormorants or gannets or something like that, we would need
quite large birds, right?
Large and aggressive. Yeah. We would need one each. We'd be now up into the hundreds of thousands. To give you just context, when the Netherlands had to deal with an oil spill with swans, their response effort cost 1.5 million euros. Wow. So we're working hard here and we're in need of support.
All right, Pierce, we'll come back to you in a few minutes' time, because we're going to walk and talk. We're going to come in to the actual tent here itself. We're going to talk to Fiona Grimes. Fiona, you are the vet here at Grey Abbey Vets. Tell us about the condition of the birds when they actually came in.
Yeah, so they were all extremely covered in oil, cold, dehydrated, very, very skinny from struggling for a few days to survive covered in the oil.
And what does it take then? What do you have to do to get the oil off their feathers?
So before we can even start to wash them, we have to stabilise them. The washing is a really stressful procedure. So we first had to rehydrate them, get them warm. We were giving them activated charcoal to help absorb the toxins in the oil. So they spent a good bit of time stabilising before we washed them. The washing procedure then itself can take about an hour. So we have to first wash them with fairy liquid. That gets the oil off. and then we have to rinse the fairy liquid off.
Okay, so you have to spend an hour basically taking the oil off each bird. Obviously, these are wild birds. They're never supposed to be anywhere near humans because they live out at sea and they breed out at sea. I mean, you got a couple of pecks, didn't you? Like, let's see your arms there.
Yes, a few pecks from them.
Quite sharp, right?
Sharp beaks, yeah, they don't like being handled. We try do what we can to minimise that with things like covering their heads with towels, but you know.
I mean, you've nursed them and you are nursing them back to full health now down here at the centre, right?
Yeah, so bit by bit they're getting better. They're feeding by themselves now, fish, and at the start we were having to supplement their food by tube feeding them, so that took a lot of work, doing that 3 times a day.
And you're giving them what, sprat in the morning?
Sprat, yeah, so they get sprat a few times a day, and they'll now dive for it in the pools and
okay,
yeah,
so they'll be nursed back to full health, which is great to see. Pierce, we obviously need to release these birds now off the back of it, right?
Yeah, that's when the real kind of magic happens, and that's the whole purpose of this endeavour, is to have these birds fully healthy and release them back into the wild. That's what Kildare Wildlife Rescue is all about for all species in Ireland. So yeah, they'll go back to nature.
Okay, obviously you're always looking for volunteers, you're always looking for donations.
Always looking for volunteers and desperate for donations. This is a very expensive endeavour at the best of time. In our first year, Kildare Wildlife Rescue dealt with 5,000 cases. It looks like we're up by 70% already, so things are crazy at the moment. So if you do want to volunteer and help Ireland's native wildlife, our natural heritage, get in touch with Kildare Wildlife Rescue. And if you can donate, like really please, every penny is going to these birds. So yeah, please help us.
All right, thank you so much, Pierce, to Fiona as well at Grey Abbey Vets. From me and all the team here, they're doing absolutely amazing work. I've had a look at the birds as well. You've seen them on air here this morning, being nursed back to full health down here in County Kildare. Back to you in the studio.
Well done, Derek. Thank you so
work,
much for highlighting things that are happening and something that's really important. It's really, really, really fantastic. Now, there's lots more still to come in the final hour. He's a legend of the stage and screen. Actor Gary Lydon, he's going to be joining us for a chat.
We're having fun with colourful plants and fabrics as we give eco-printing a try.
And we are getting nutty in the kitchen with some delicious almond Bakewell slices.
Had some
Catherine
already.
Maiden.
Have you?
Oh,
I have
has.
indeed. It's past my breakfast time. Anyway, all to come on Ireland Jam.